here as it comes right down. And the plan remains the same, man. And someone in the chat is like, how do I learn day trading? I don't really know how to answer that question. I mean, you're watching the show. You're right into there. I mean, we bought VWAP right there. We talk about it, man. Stronger stock. We like the name. We've been looking at Google for a minute. So there it goes. I mean, stay trading the best names that you have right now. P&L number 1 on the day here. Not even close. We're 4-1 today. The only loss that we have, and I'm trying to correct it right now, but it has nothing to do with losing on a stock. It's not like I lose on it. I have to go right away and start making money on it. Nothing to do with it. It was AMD. AMD is the only stock that we had lost on today because we try to defend 170. It does not break. It does not hold. It breaks. And then we wind up getting out right there, whatever that level was, 169. It wasn't that one. 169.85 or so. There's a couple outs in there. Anyways, breaking back down to the downside, we wind up getting out on that. So we'll wait for this market to settle down. But look what the hell's happening with Google right now. Let's go. This is what happens when, again, we have more confidence. We're using more shares. We're waiting for these trades. We've got it. Go, give me those O2s. We're sitting there at O2, bang, 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 bang. Maybe Google now becomes P&L number 1 for your boy. But let's wait to see. Nice trade there for Google. 40 cents in the money. We'll take some pieces out there. 161, 162.02. Good fill. Let's see if it comes in even more than that. We're still on Palantir, 50 cents. Google, 40 cents. Apple, $1. Yeah, that ends in Y.
Yeah, that is the cleanest VWAP hold that I've seen on a move like that in the futures in a while. Because the futures really, and just about everything else we were saying was tanking. Remember I mentioned in that moment, Alphabet did not make the bigger breakdown, so it held on to that 160. My stop was at 161.60, pretty much exactly. And I could have moved it. In theory, it could have been like right here where the bodies are at like 55 instead of 60, but I put it at 60. It bounced off 60. It held VWAP here. There's your reversal candle. That's the one, like that's a tight one, rejection. The next one, green. Take the break of the prior high into 162 and then into the high of the day. Tesla broke that 239 and is now headed up to opening range tops. This is where we started, 240 and a quarter. If we get to 240 and a quarter, I want to jump out of it. I already mentioned Intel for the 2350 break. It's at 42. It's trying to go. But once again, the market bounces and there's no bounce to get into Mara short. So it looks like this is just going to be consolidation under VWAP or break of this 15 and a quarter mark. If it breaks 15 and a quarter under VWAP, I'm short Mara. If it bounces off VWAP, then I can work the high of the day. But this thing is just, it's not going when the market bounces. So you got to try to find something. I wanted this short at different prices, but it doesn't matter what you want. It's what's happening. It's weak, relatively speaking. All it has to do is take out that floor. I'm going to set a stop through a 25 break. If it goes to the high, great. If it goes to the high, we can wait for that 15.5. Otherwise, it's a quarter breakdown here on Mara. Finally.
Yeah, and AMD goes back up to the upside, so that will still remain our one losing name here today, which is fine, man. I mean, it's $1 in Apple. We're waiting for Google to go. And by the way, Google is going. So there we go. We'll be up more on Google than we are obviously on AMD to the downside. So that's going to be a good thing for us right there. It's always good when that's the ratio. It's like, so we've made almost double on Apple what we've lost on AMD, so that's pretty good. And the same thing is going to be true hopefully for Google, especially if we get some more outs right now. We're actually at 07 right here trying to wait for a fill. Sometimes we hold these up, but I have to sit here. Or you could just punch 06s, which, oh man. Sometimes, all right, let's just punch out here if we can. There we go, take some 05s there. All right, we'll just punch out 05. So again, we wait on the offer. The thing is, I heard Satya talk about this yesterday about being on a prop floor, and that is that it's often you're playing a fee game as well. So here at Real Trading, we have the best fees in the business. It's not even close. So make sure you go find realtrading.com. The other thing about that is that we can sit here on the offer and add liquidity and get paid to do that, or if we remove liquidity like I just did there at 05, we have to pay a small fee for that as well. So there is some back and forth there. Oh my, there goes Google right now. I'm upset that we just got out at 05, but I'm very happy as it rips up to 15s, because again, when you're trading more shares, I'm just taking pieces out. It's not like this is options or anything like that, like where you might have like 1 or 2 contracts. So therefore, you take a piece out, then you're taking out a third or a half or whatever it is. We're just piecing these trades out, and that's why That's not why I use more shares. I'm going to use more shares because I'm trying to make a little bit more money. But at the end of the day, you got to be right. And if you're not right, then you should not be upping your share size. So let's just see what happens right now with Google. It's 55 cents in the money on some great reloads. So there it goes, Google trying to go higher. I think we might as well be hands off now and just see if this market wants to go. We're sitting over we're about 250 in the money now on these three positions.
Yeah, by the way, we're not avoiding NVIDIA. You got to focus on what you're in. I saw people in the chat are like, hey, what's going on with NVIDIA? It's almost at 135. I'm taking a break on Intel through 23.5 in like 5 or 6 cents. NVIDIA has 135 as a resistance up top. So if you're in a chip name, I think that does bear watching. It's stair step to the upside. I also just reversed in Tesla, which is trying to pull back into prior highs. So if you go in here, like the 238.5, that's the zone I'm giving this long to. Like where we were short before into VWAP, that's now where I want to be long into on Tesla. So want to get a bounce here. If it can show me a bounce and a resumption of trend, I jump back into some shares. I just got Mara, so Mara must have broken down. Okay, so Mara, while the market was going up, Mara wasn't really doing much. It just flat bottom. It's not really a flat bottom break. It just broke this support here at 15.25. I'm now short. We didn't get much slippage. We got 23s, not 24s. So it's, I guess, 1 penny worth of slippage. Back above VWAP, and I'm out on MARA. So still about 5 or 6 cents away from a potential breakout here on Intel. I think that's going to be the next position for me. It's essentially yesterday's high on Intel. Nice consolidation top here. Been sitting with this order out since the pre-market. There's a double top yesterday. You're climbing into it. Going to take the break and give it into the pre-market high. Probably maybe like a 41 or 42 level. Let's go to the desk. Get a little money talks.
Nice push higher here for the DXY on the daily chart. Now above the 103 level. Next resistance level I can see here could potentially be that 103.25 area we hit in August. Let's see what happens here for the DXY, which has been on a great move to the upside since the start of the month. Actually, October 1st is when we really began that push off of the 100-point area. We did get higher than expected CPI across the board for month over month and core, year over year for both core and non-core, and that's all up by 0.1% above the expectation. So core CPI for September, 0.3% versus 0.2% expected on a month.
Time decay working in their favor, opposed to options buyer, where the clock is ticking and options time theta is working against you, all right? So you want those things to move really quickly when you're buying options, and you don't want theta to drastically increase or let that options contract expire, where it eventually will expire worthless. And if you receive a debit, that is not a good thing. So we'll stop there. Shrek, what are you looking at there, my friend? What's going on in the overall market?
Donald John Trump entry off the 10 exponential moving average. I've also got a dip trade, Fabian, set up here to shadow 310 on CrowdStrike. I'm less confident with this one because it's been putting basically 3 lower highs now and 2 lower lows. So we
probably
weaseled
because
in
he's
already a couple
claiming
times, 3
Biden
bounces,
and
it
FEMA
looks
are only
like on
giving
my
people
$5-minute chart here,
$750
off
or
the
some
volume
shit.
weighted average price on CRWD. I spoke with Adara before we got on the show. It looks as if this is really Delta related, but there are other names moving in the sector. So it could be sector specific, it could be Delta specific. I know that Delta had already included the whatever, I think it was almost 50 pennies on that EPS that cost them from the shutdown, $350 million essentially on the quarter. So I'm waiting to shadow 310, volume weighted average price currently on my 5-minute chart, either 309.15, 309.20, can't quite tell. Not as confident with this particular trade, going to tell you quite frankly, because I don't know if this gives up the ghost at VWAP or whether it continue or bounces at VWAP or whether it continues to make lower highs, lower lows. So we'll get to Adara in 1 second, but I want to let everybody know that there is a seller at 15, and there has been for the last 10 minutes or so on Donald John Trump. Here we go again. He just got taken out. So we're at 16s now, but the ask is not moving, so that seller's still there. Adara, what do you got for us?
Great, look here for Symbiotic. This one's been maintaining really strong volume off the open here in the 15-minute chart, up almost 20%. There is actually a catalyst for this one, announcing that they have this agreement to help implement these multiple industry-leading warehouse automation systems for part of this expansion here in Mexico. So symbolic here with this agreement for some expansion. It's worth noting as well, SYM, not a small cap, around a $14.5 billion market cap. However, their short float pretty significant here. It is a 38.9% short float from what I'm seeing. So hefty short float for SYM as it pushes even higher, guys.
Thank you for that, Adaria. That's definitely one that I had on the side chart. Let's go, Donald John Trump. There it is, baby. We take out that seller. We're moving up through the fifth of a yeah. Joe's got the bang button.
We got it set up. We got it set up. That's dangerous.
Ready to
it's
go.
dangerous. They shouldn't have gave me the button, but it's
you get whatever button you want, bro. It's so easy to transfer off Stream Deck, The Chilean Nightmare showed me how to do it. So we just wet our beak there through the fifth of a dollar. I'm looking for a high day break. That comes vis-a-vis a 50-penny break. $24.50. Donald John Dang Trump up again, 17.5%. This has been in play all week long. Don't know why, don't care. We're just going to trade it and we'll see what we get. All right, we're long crowd strike here at 10s. So let's see if we can wet our beak possibly here. And then, we'll see exactly what we get. And Joe, we're not going to get upset no matter what happens. So that's the look. And we're putting in the stop to take in account of that, and we'll see what we get. What are you looking at, my man?
Hey, I'm looking over here at AMD, and unfortunately, it's my classic saying, it's breaking my heart here. I got two beautiful entries on it, and then I got stopped out. And then, sure enough, I wasn't ready for that third entry. But this is why we stop out, right? I didn't want to bring this down any lower, especially if we continued lower to the downside. Then you take a big hit on that, and we don't want to do that, right? We want to keep ourselves in the game. So that's what you do. You got to take those stop losses. That's why you get out when you're supposed to get out, and keep yourself in the game for as long as possible. But other than that, you can see that it's working out now. And I mean, the market's been chopping around a lot this morning. So, and I went and looked over at all the sector ETFs and what everything's doing. So it looks like XLK, the tech sector, is leading the way because we have NVIDIA up about 1%. Tesla's down about just over 0.5% now. And AMD's down about 0.3, but that's okay because I think Microsoft is a little strong today and Google's strong today, so that's what's probably dragging everything else up. I mean, the SPY ripped yesterday, Sharif, and they gave it all-time highs, and and all the sectors were absolutely buzzing. So those are always good days in there. So you can expect a little market breadth here, and I mean we got that CPI data print in there as well today. So expect the volatility to come in, and like we were talking about earlier in the day, it's an absolutely action-packed Thursday. We're getting volatility, and as intraday traders, that's exactly what we want. So we're still looking over here at AMD. I really would have liked to get in here again for the third time because third time's always a charm. But if I were to go more than 3 times on the entry, then I wouldn't fight it because we know AMD has that event here at noon. I think they have the MI 350 chip they're presenting.
That's going to be like the B200, the Blackwell competitor.
Oh, okay. So that can be an absolute banger for the company too, especially because we know demand is extremely high for these chips, and they're definitely not cheap, right? So you got big players buying these chips off of these guys and everything like that. So it's always good to see that. So that can always help fundamentally with the stock, Sharif.
Absolutely, man. All right, we set up a beak wetter on DJT to account for the high of the day. The high of the day, as I mentioned, 50 pennies. So putting it in the low 40s. Again, right now, $24. Really unsure how this one all plays out for the remaining portion. But I know one thing is for certain, that if it breaks that 80 penny area, I'm Gonzino, because that is where the shelf is, the resistance shelf, and now acting as support. We actually use that area as support at 1104. This is the trade I'm keeping my eye on the most. CrowdStrike, it's got to hold VWAP, otherwise I want no smoke with this one. It didn't get the print at the $0.50, although we were very close, despite the fact that it was over the $0.50. You know how these ones are, they're awfully spready. It's gonna have to cross by some distance. I'm talking about the bid crossing the actual price that you want to get out at. What does that mean? So if I'm waiting at $310.55, the bid has to creep up close to or cross that, the bid, not the ask, because that's the spread right there we're talking about. It's got to cross, and it didn't, so we didn't get filled. Simple as that. And now we're 30, 40 pennies, 20, 10 pennies out of the money, depending on where the hell you're looking, if it's either the bid or the ask. We're doing well here on DJT, but I'm still waiting for that 40 penny bump. Last time we moved up, I think we found some resistance at $24.32 or thereabouts. It's technically still a lower high, but the other side of that coin is it's all higher lows, baby. And we haven't put in a new lower low since this thing started pamping at around, when did it start going? It started going right at the opening bell there. Went quite aggressively to the upside and really hasn't looked back. Here we go, 30 pennies again here on Donald John Trump. Still unable to take that level, so we're going to keep eyes on that.
I was really hoping she wouldn't be super
We're
lucky
out of the
this
money,
time
and if this one
around, so
crosses
she would
309
actually
the
learn
downside,
to,
that's the end of that. We're going to lose
what do
a
you call
dollar a
it?
share
Take
there.
the next
So
one
looking
seriously.
to make 50 pennies on the first piece, and then we'll look for more, probably something at around 312 if it goes my way. If it doesn't, that's the end of the trade. There was an individual by the name of Crapstock, yes, who was, yes, there we go. Let me just see what he has to say over here, because we wanted some.
There's other words like
I
that
said,
too,
for the
like
newbies,
color,
I'm
neighbor,
cool, I can switch.
stuff like
no,
that.
bro, it's not about that. It's more about wanting to know specifically what you want. I mean, like Joe's giving you introduction into options. There really hasn't been an introduction into day trading. What we usually do is just talk about our methodology of trading different names, like, you know, the way we would trade small cap gappers versus possibly the Mag 7. The tools that we use are scanners or watch lists. Some of the other stuff that we use every day, that's typically what we talk about, but there's like, I don't think we've ever set up an introduction into day trading in the same kind of way that Joe's setting up an introduction into options. So if you have any specific questions, Crapstock, I'm more than happy to answer them for you, my man. I didn't mean anything derogatory by asking you what you wanted. It wasn't. I wasn't.
It was a genuine question.
It was a genuine question, like legit. I always want to help, man.
Right?
And
Yeah, it's out
Adam
in,
Deuce is chiming in as well.
going
He's trying
to
to help out
Africa
Crapstock. So shout out to Crapstock.
It's going to
I like
Africa
your
now.
name. John Del Segno. Let's go over some of the comments over here.
Well,
Where
it's
your
not
stop
completely
at on
gone.
Crowd? I'm
Like
not
some
telling
of
you,
the
Oscar, you
other
know,
side of
'cause you're gonna
Florida
try to
is still getting a
stop
little
me,
bit of
but-
storm surge. Even like
we do have
was
the
that,
sector watch with Adara at the Green Screen.
Yeah.
Adara.
even like
This is
like
our,
North
this is
Carolina,
our
Georgia.
take here. Look at some of the
No.
larger movers in the S&P 500.
Yeah.
Going to talk a little bit about some of these names. We do have to, of course, talk about CrowdStrike here. CRWD. What's interesting about this one, I could not find
Yeah,
a specific
they have
catalyst,
a
but
little
the
bit of
whole
storm surge from it.
cybersecurity space has been really strong as of late. We know we had a run up in Palo Alto Networks, and today Snowflake SNOW up significantly
Even
as well.
like
But what makes CrowdStrike so
South
fascinating today is on the day of Delta
Carolina,
earnings,
even
CrowdStrike
North
finally
Carolina,
reaches the
maybe
area
some
that it
North
actually
Carolina,
was
Georgia.
trading around.
No,
the
this
day
is the
of
storms.
outage on July 19th.
They're getting to
We had
the
some resistance around that
1 to 4
315
feet
area,
storm
which is
surges from
today's
it
top
now.
back on that day. So this could be a really interesting day of price
I
interaction.
don't know,
here
maybe.
for
But I'm just talking about
CRWD.
what's
Next up,
going on
we
now.
do have
We're getting
Micron
some
here,
storm
MU.
surge from it.
No specific catalyst on this, though it is worth noting. Direction actually announcing some different ETFs here for Broadcom and for Micron. Micron, apparently there's a
think they care
bull
about-
two times leveraged bull ETF for Micron MUU, and the short one is MUD. Also keep an eye on all these semiconductors ahead of AMD's Advancing AI event at 12 p.m. And last but not least, we have First Solar FSLR. This one getting a price target cut from Jefferies by about $5, but we also have Enphase weaker, so this move down in energy, these energy solar related stocks could have to do with these rates because we did have higher than expected inflation and CPI prints this morning. So keep an eye on all these different sectors, some cybersecurity, semiconductors, and also, of course, these solar names on watch today. And if there's any tickers you're looking at, please make sure to vote for them in the chat. Exclamation point Dwayne, space, $, and your ticker of choice.
Thank you very much for that, Adara. Yeah, keep an eye out on, obviously, CrowdStrike. It's crossed above. It got into 60s. I've been waiting at 50s. I'm not getting printed because of the spread. It's a nice 4% move. And Adara was telling me, actually, before we got on camera, that this has weaseled its way back into the levels that it was at prior to that whole Delta debacle, right? Or not the Delta debacle, the outage. And there we go, down again, crosses, I don't get filled. Yeah, this is kind of the ABCs of the spready stocks. If you're not ready to deal with this, it's just, don't trade it. What are you looking at, Joe?
Hey, yeah, I'm still over here looking at AMD. We're going to touch on some CrowdStrike because I really like how Adara brought up CrowdStrike, and I'm actually looking at something very specific on that asset. But first, what we'll do is we had a couple questions about options in the chat. Darius Golden asked, I really want to learn about stop losses on options, and that's that's absolutely fantastic because they're so key, especially using a leveraged product. So it depends what type of strategy you're employing, Darius, right? So if you're doing a credit spread-based trade, look to employ about 100% of the credit received as a stop loss, right? So if you receive 50 bucks, then put your stop loss at 50 bucks. Now, as per going directional, use a percentage metric as well, but if you're buying contracts, then use a smaller percentage, right? Because you don't want that asset, like you're gonna lose value on the asset if your trade isn't working right away. So if you buy a contract for say $10 or $1,000 in options terms, put that stop loss at about like 30% or 25% at the value of that contract, right? So that's a percentage metric that I use for options stop losses. They are a leveraged derivative, so they are slightly different compared to flat out equities, all right? So hopefully that answered your question, Darius Golden. Now, Ross Hansen, I know this guy's always paying attention. So Ross, we're happy to answer your questions there, brother. So how do you usually select the strike price on 0.1 delta? Well, see, the thing is you want to find a liquid stock, right? And I have a set, Sean was talking about this the other day, like we have a set, like I have a set stock, like group of stocks that I want to trade. So I'm not trading things that are illiquid or are not offering premiums, right? So you want to look at large cap stocks, even some mid caps, but the lower you get in market capitalization, the less liquid these contracts are going to be, this vehicle is going to be. So it's going to be harder to find buyers and sellers in that. So just stick to stuff that is really liquid and the larger capitalization stocks, all right? So here's what I want to bring up on, first let me get into some AMD here. I think I like AMD. It's a little bit of a chase, but that's okay. If we're gonna trend, then we're trending, right? And we got that thing at noon. So if we continue to go to the high and break this high, this pivot high here, then that's absolutely gonna be beautiful. And then I think we can make another leg to the top side, considering it has been lagging its peer NVIDIA a little bit on the session. So that's okay. But I mean, if we can get to this pre-market range here, around 170, 156, then that will be absolutely beautiful. So we're looking like there. I would have liked to get in around here, but we waited for this consolidation, waiting for see if we break this pivot high and we can continue to the top side. But I just wanted to point out real quick on what Sharif and Adara were talking about on CrowdStrike. And this stock has absolutely been recovering, and rightfully so. I mean, I don't know if I know Elon tweeted, he's like, yeah, we're out of CrowdStrike or something like that, but I don't know if he's just doing that out of spite because he might have been a little upset or something on the day. No, seriously, right? Like, you know, he does those things sometimes, right? He's a little impulsive, and that's okay. And I heard Sharif talking about why he's a once-in-a-generation individual, right? You don't get many of those guys. He's a philosopher, extreme. He's just a one-in-a-lifetime individual. So, okay, so what I'm looking at here on CrowdStrike is this gap fill. So if I can get CrowdStrike to enter this gap fill here, so we're gonna get a breach of the gap, and then we're gonna get an open within that, and then I'm gonna look to do a little swing play on this trade. So I'm really happy that Adara brought up this stock because this stock has been on my radar for a little while, looking to play this gap fill because we know that in strong stocks, the majority of gaps get filled. So that can be a potential play there. So I'm looking at that, absolutely. So great look by Adara and Sharif by just like pointing out, hey, like look what CrowdStrike's doing, because even though they're maybe looking at it from a different perspective than I am, then you can just totally see like, hey, I've been watching this. I'm glad you guys pointed it out. And then now you can see my perspective on the asset as well too. So yeah, other than that, guys, we're in AMD to the fullest here. It's starting to work out how we want. We're starting to break. And I mean, we only got about a half an hour before the conference starts, which is absolutely fun. And I think that it can do some good for the stock. I'm looking for a lot from the stock, so expectations are high on this thing. Sharif, what do you think, brother?
Yeah, bro. Look, I'm impressed by AMD. I'm a fan of Lisa Sue's, but what I do know is that for whatever reason, Joe, Jensen is dominating the supply chain of Taiwan Semi. So even if you have a sick GPU or an AI processor that you want to get to market, how are you supposed to manufacture when Jensen is chewing up all that or is swallowing all that, you know what I mean? No, I'm not doing that again. You can go and rewind and make a meme out of me. But no,
crazy.
Seriously though, that's kind of what I feel there. I feel like...
No, I totally agree with you on that one, right? Unless you're gonna fork up some more big bucks and then start your own.
Yeah, like how is he doing it? How, like, is he just, is he in with them or is he paying them? I don't know, I have no idea. I'm not gonna even speculate.
His pockets are deep, so I'm assuming.
Clearly, right?
So
he got a little bit of a net worth bump this year.
You know what I mean? Just a little bit. So.
I want to talk about this Donald John Trump trade that I took. So this one dipped and broke 24 bucks, and I got in right at 23.80, Fabian, because this is the area where there is umpteen amounts of support. That was the top of the flag. I like this area a lot for an area defense. So as soon as it dipped, I punched. I took some out into 24. I'm still holding a decent position. I'm still looking for a high day break and take. We'll see how that all works out. I'm also into JTAI for a 20 penny defend. I front ran it a little bit. 20 pennies is what I like here. And shout out to Black Sheep Trades for pointing that out, because he pointed it out to me, because, you know, I'm not going to have notice of this because it's far too cheap. I filter my scanner out by 85 pennies. So this is what I'm looking at over here, this area crest at 19.50 or 20 pennies, whatever you want to say, in and around there. So that's the level I'm looking to defend there. And if it wants to weasel up back into 25 pennies, fantastic. Otherwise, no hard feelings. We will see other people. For real though, go Donald John Trump nicely. We're long 83s now. We're knocking the door at 10s. Pumped about this trade. The trade I'm not pumped up about is CRWD. It is continuing that lower high, lower low situation. I feel it's a matter of time until there's breaches 309 on a wick basis or closing basis, what have you, and I get pushed out of this. So if that's the case, that's the case. Can't win them all, but my spidey sense, my inclination right now says that we either flat bottom break aggressively through 309 or we defend the hell out of this level because there's a buyer there. Joe's playing with the magic eight ball.
What does it say? What does it say?
It's never been good to me, Joe. It's never been good to me.
Better not tell you now, my friend. So we're gonna have to hold on that one.
So I'm just gonna punch out here. No, seriously. Adara's got something for us though at the big desk. What do you got, Adara?
This is now a day 3 play here for WW. This is a company formerly known as Weight Watchers here. Pretty decent short float as well. We are talking about 16.7%. So this is lower than it was a few days ago, but still pretty significant. This one started trading higher on Tuesday, announcing that it's going to be adding compounded semaglutide, so that's going to be compounded GLP-1 into its offerings to help expand accessibility and affordability of this type of treatment there for weight loss. So WW up more than 20% on its 3rd day of running. Guys, if you're looking at this or any other ticker, make sure to vote for it in the chat. !join space $ in your ticker of choice, because the top 5 tickers will be featured on the afternoon rundown at 2 p.m. You have until 11:50 to vote. Or 150 vote.
Thank you very much for that, Adara. Yeah, we'll keep checking out there. What do you got, Joe?
Hey, yeah, so we're still in this AMD trade. It's actually working out for us nicely, and we took that second leg. So we might pull back a little bit here. I mean, the overall market's pulling back. Tesla's down about 1% now. So, hey, we'll see. We're still going to hold on to the position, and that's the narrative of trading. If it's working, let it continue to work until it doesn't anymore, right? So that's one thing there. And someone in the chat asked me, Joe, top VIP. Joe, what are your thoughts on trading ETFs? You know what? I'm all for trading ETFs. I really like trading ETFs, especially the SPY Qs. And I used to dabble a little bit in IWM, but we all know that small caps are a little more volatile. So it was tough for me to gauge stop losses in that half, but I'm all for trading sector ETFs and overall market ETFs. They're great ways. And what we'll do is we'll actually touch on like kind of just what you can possibly do with these, right? So if you're looking to play some options plays and you're like, hey, I don't really want to buy it all the way up here, but I'm looking to profit. Well, what you can do is you can sell some premium. You can create like a bull put spread. You're using the lows, 475, maybe a week or two out. That will help you collect some premium, or you can use the highs and sell a bear call spread and be like, hey, I don't think we're gonna breach these highs in the next week or so. So you can do that as well too. And we're gonna touch on the combination of strategies shortly. But there's so many things. If you were to combine those both trades, you can then create a Iron Condor, which is absolutely one of my favorite trades. I know Adam DeLuce in the chat says he loves the Condor, and a lot of traders love the Condor because it's like, hey, you can choose a range in which the asset is not going to breach, right? So we can create two simultaneous trades and say, hey, we don't think that the Qs in the next week, 2 weeks, or whatever you are comfortable with is going to breach this range. And that's how you can create some really nice consistent profits via options, guys. So that's one thing. That's the power of options, and that's why we really, really like them. We got AMD coming in a little bit here, and that's totally fine. I mean, the volume on this pullback is relatively low, and that's something that we'd like to see. So if we can hold on before we get stopped out, break even, that'd be fantastic, because we were nicely in the money there. We had about $1, not $1, about 50 cents in the money. So that was nice there on that trade. And you guys know me, like I like my VWAP breaks, and I'm upset that I didn't get this entry here, because like look at this move that we totally would have captured. But hey, that's all hindsight stuff, and we just focus on what's in front of us right now, and what's in front of me right now is AMD, and the trade is absolutely working. So guys, keep throwing your options questions in the chat. I'm loving them. They're as good as always. Top VIP, no problem for the insight, and that's what we like to talk about, right? It gives us it gives me like another insight, right? It's like, hey, what are you guys looking at? And then I look at it, and it's like the CrowdStrike example that we were talking about is like, okay, Adair's looking at something specific, but little did she know that for the past couple weeks, I've been looking at CrowdStrike too, looking to get a play off that. So it's always good to see when other traders are looking at the same type of stuff. Is really good. Sharif, what do you got there, brother?
I don't know why my stop didn't trigger on Donald John Trump over here, but I was holding baby shares, so it's all good there. But DJT, done with this trade, also got stopped out of crowd. CrowdStrike, looking for something different on this. So I'm gonna leave it here because this one is a bigger loser than my winners because of the spread. And obviously it's a $300 name, so we're gonna have to pack our patience, let this one set up. If it wants to set up on VWAP, I'm gonna need to see something a little bit different than from what I'm seeing now. And what I'm seeing is consecutively lower lows and lower highs. And you know, I don't want to say it's disrespecting VWAP because it's not really blowing through it, but it's obviously breaching it. It's below it right now. It wicked below it on the previous 5-minute candle. So we're going to keep an eye out on that. So this one, JTAI, also coming into my level, got stopped out on this one as well. Wow, everything's happening not as I planned right now. So keeping an eye on this one. This one was supposed to hold around 20 pennies, or that's kind of how I gauged it. We'll see what this one wants to do at 18 or so, possibly at VWAP. JTAI out of this one. Let me just make sure I'm completely done with that. That's why. Okay, so we gotta make sure that we're good with the trigger there. All right, let's set up possibly. 1 second here. Yeah, that's no. Okay, I want to answer SP Williams. He's like, what's your favorite gap up today? So there's a few. Initially, SYM was the looker there. It's now kind of coming off that $28 area, but this is an area that's interesting. $27.50 for SYM. It's a bit more of expensive. Obviously, it's not a small cap gapper per se. Let's give the deets on this one. $16 billion market cap, 2.25 million shares traded today, and about an 85 or so million share float, with the short float being about 40%. So about 39.8%. This is holding 27.50 awfully well. And there is an area resistance level, now probably support. So SYM looks really good. Oh, come on, CrowdStrike, bro.
What is it doing now?
Yeah, no, whatever. Yeah. WW is the other one that I'm looking at. Dara just brought this to us at $1.90. That was a nice dip trade right off the 10 exponential. I love when these ones get extended away from the 10, and then they come in and they shadow the 10 for a quick wick and then bounce right back up. You get your money super quick. You don't have to wait for the trade to develop there. So WW certainly on my watch as well. And we're gonna need see something a little bit different here from JTAI. If I want to trade this one, it's got to work its way back and put newer candles to make newer highs. Otherwise, this downtrend is, I'm not going to try to catch a falling knife at VWAP or otherwise. Going to have to set up and kind of get it on the back end, as Neil likes to say, and show you its propensity to move back up. So that's kind of what I'm looking at there.
Yeah, great stuff there from Sharif. Someone asked me in the chat about VST. I think we did touch on this, so I'll touch on it again briefly. Nice move up here. So if you were in around the lows or you're in at the break of these kind of resistant levels with the gap up, so if you play this gap up after this break of resistance on VST, then that's absolutely beautiful. But we had a really big move up here. I'm not sure what catalyst it had under it. It pays a dividend. But again, just wait. You have some solid signal here. Maybe that might turn around a little bit, but just pack your patience a little bit, hold your horses on getting into this stock because it does seem slightly extended. But all in all, I mean, hey, like look at this thing. So it's been absolutely buzzing to the top side. And look for the continuation to do so. This company must be doing something right. I'm not too familiar with what they do, but you got your eyes in the right area. But just wait, let the stock come to you. Don't chase the stock. All right, guys. So there it is. That's the look on VST someone asked for. So good stuff. So yeah, Ross Henson again. This guy's always coming up with the good questions, and I'm gonna touch on this too. So I have a select few. I wouldn't say few, but there's a good number of stocks that I look at. So just go look at market capitalization on whatever platform you're using or piece of information where you get your information from, and just write down the largest 30, 40 stocks, something that is obvious to you and are liquid in the options world, right? And then what I do is just I form a basis on support and resistance zones, right? So with the example that I used on the Qs is like, okay, find a definitive support level and then make a trade based off of that, right? So Ross, if you're looking at like say the Qs is at 400, trading at 400, and there's a definitive support level around 395, then okay, look for the 392s and a halves to sell some premium. That way you have that support barrier above you, and if it were to break, then you can get out of the trade. So use your technicals, define support and resistance zones, and then you can base trades off that. So yeah, guys, AMD's working, and then before we talk more AMD, because we're about 20 minutes away from the event, we are off to Adara.
The event has not started yet here. I'm just waiting for that event to start at 12 p.m. We're going to get to this earnings segment in just a moment. Just worth noting here as well, in terms of our other event, which is going to be the Tesla Robotaxi event at 10 p.m. EST or Eastern time here. We actually did have a report here saying that Tesla is set to give some temporary workers permanent jobs here in their German Gigafactory, apparently because they have optimistic assessment of further development of their car production in that German plant. So positive note there, potentially. Not sure if the stock has moved much on that, but just worth noting there's some positive production note coming out of TSLA in Germany. Now let's talk about our earnings segment. We have Tilray earnings as well. They did have a smaller than expected loss per share and missed on revenue, but the volume dropped a bit on that one. We're going to talk about two of our larger earnings plays today, Delta and Domino's. DAL here down about 1%, definitely finding some resistance here around that $51 level. They did have a miss for both the earnings per share, which is actually down 26% year over year, and their sales beats here on an operating revenue basis, but their adjusted operating revenue missed estimates and was flat on a year over year basis. So not a great look here for DAL. Their EPS as well here, they're seeing $1.60 to $1.85 for Q4. So the lower end of that, below estimates of $1.69 per share. Now, Domino's, pretty interesting here, almost flat on the day, but nice move up from that 403 area, which is actually support on the daily chart as well for DPZ. They beat here for earnings per share, $4.19 per share versus estimates of $3.68. So they did miss on sales, and they actually lowered a little bit of their fiscal 2024 guidance, saying that they're expecting their 2025 guidance and growth to be, quote, generally in line with 2024 expectations. So interesting look there for DPZ as it chops around again, basically flat as of right now. Now, real earnings season is kicking off here tomorrow with JPM and WFC earnings. We know bank earnings usually usher in the beginning of the new earnings season on Friday mornings. JP Morgan analysts are looking for $4.20 2 cents for earnings per share, and also revenue of $41.27 billion. For Wells Fargo, they're looking for $1.27 per share for earnings, and then also revenue of $20.4 billion. Let's see how these results stack up. Should be a pretty interesting day. And make sure to vote for your ticker of choice, !join, space $, and that ticker until 1:50 p.m.
Thank you very much, Adara. All right. Yeah, still keeping my eye on crowd. Not sure. This is setting up kind of as a range now, kind of a 311, maybe 309 to the downside. We'll keep a lookout on this one. Just kind of disappointed with this one, even though I said I wouldn't be disappointed, but I still am, because I would have printed if I didn't get pushed out here. But look, I got pushed out by about 25 pennies, so it's not a small amount. Yeah, I got rinsed. I got rinsed, baby. Yeah, no two ways about it. It's my biggest loser in a few days here on this crowd strike. So we'll look to do a little bit better, Joe. But that's the situation. I mean,
part of the game, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I'm back into JT, AI, looking for that 20 penny kind of general area defend. It kind of found its footing here at 19.5. We'll see if this one wants to work its way back up. What is it? What is the detail? What are the details, I should say? JTAI on this one. Let me have a look over here. $5.3 million market cap, just a light 391 million shares traded on the day. Wow, 7.3 million share float. That's tiny for this kind of stock. Let's double check that with Trade Ideas. So Trade Ideas give me a different number over here, saying 19 million shares, still very small for a 20 penny name. 6 1/3% of that float is shorted. Not the biggest I've ever seen, but not a bad look either. So keeping an eye on that. Goodness gracious, CrowdStrike. Eric goes again above that 311. Now it does look like it's breaking to the high side, as it is a 5-minute candle to make a new high. Now, we'll have to keep an eye on this one, but it does look like it's generally defending VWAP. So I think I executed poorly on this by just having too close of a stop. I did give it about $1, but this one required more. It's on the way up. It's about to touch 312. Tough one. What do you got, Adair?
DASH, this is DoorDash getting its largest volume candles up by far on the day as of right now. There's some speculation going around on social media that Tesla is going to announce a partnership with DASH during the Robotaxi event. So Robotaxi partnership speculation, to be very clear, speculation.
So hopefully you guys now have a general concept of what the Greeks are, and hopefully it doesn't shy you away from the Greeks, all right, or options, because the more comfortable you get with them, the less that the metric just becomes second nature. You know when something goes over, right? It's just second nature, and then you just glimpse at these numbers like delta and gamma, and then you will do the same with Vega, right? So I like to avoid stocks with high implied volatility unless I'm selling them, right? So if volatility is really high, then maybe I'll look for a sell, but I don't want to buy when prices are really high and then have the potential to move down, all right? So those are the 4 Greeks. We got one more, and it's Rho. Rho is probably the least popular, I'm sorry, poor Rho, but Greek, that there is. And it's the least impactful, all right? So Rho is the Greek that measures the influence of interest rates on an options contract pricing. So what it uses essentially is risk-free interest rates. So whatever, like a T-bill to gauge Rho. And it's funny because during this whole rate cycle, I never really paid attention to Rho, because with that, you get the increase in interest rates. So that means the increase in T-bills as well, right? So the more you're getting for the 5, 10 year, the 1 year, and everything. So I never really paid attention of how that affected the options, because it's not really a metric that's commonly used, all right? So again, there's not much to look into Rho, because its effect on the options contract isn't overly drastic, all right? So guys, that's the Greeks. We now know delta has the most impact on the options contract. Gamma is delta's delta. So every time that the delta changes, the gamma changes. We know theta. Theta